I think of all the sectors that we are exploring today on the way forward, agriculture and food processing probably is in most paradoxical kind of a situation. To illustrate what I'm saying, let me pull out two data points that we heard in the earlier session. One point was that when Chief Secretary was talking, he mentioned that 50% of all workforce, our source of livelihoods, is in agriculture sector. Actually, that 20 million people are outside this, 35 million are outside the 20 million of current day. There are about 12 million farmers and about 7 to 8 million farm labor in the state of Andhra Pradesh. And that 50% workforce is producing about 20% of the state's GDP. So if we just flip the equation and assess, the other 50% of workforce is actually generating the 80% of the state's GDP within manufacturing and services sector. That means the per capita GDP of a farmer is just about 1/4 of rest of the sector's workforce. So therefore, he urged very strongly that if we have to realize the dream of inclusive growth, you must do something about agriculture. And possibly food processing is a route to get there. So that was one data point. Because we process very little and all over the world everybody processes a lot more. We in any case produce a lot of agriculture stuff and all that. Then when Jai presented his way forward, I don't know how many really noticed the various numbers he had put up. Between 2011, where we have the current numbers, and 2022, where we are hoping we'll get 35 million, how many jobs will get added in the agri and food processing and related sectors? I think what I noticed there was the incremental number of jobs were 0. At this time, we have about 0.6 odd million people employed in the agri food processing related sector out of the 20 odd million. And when this number hits 35, we still have just as many people. Now one has to really work a miracle to produce out of just as many people to change this equation of inclusive growth and get a higher GDP out of agriculture. So that's the paradox that we really have. If we have to generate and deliver inclusive growth and generate more jobs, and when in fact Ajay was opening up his discussion, he talked about this number of 20 million actually is a drop from 24 million that we were in this sector at some point of time. So 20 itself is unsustainable because we only have so much of land mass, about 12 million hectares. 16 million hectares in about 12 million holdings. So the number of people dependent on this land holding will need to diminish to raise the per capita GDP of agriculture. So there is in any case a need for finding out so many jobs for people who are coming from rural. Some of them obviously will find opportunities in manufacturing, services, entertainment and all of these spaces that we heard. So these are the two data points. Now in order to actually look at a way forward and dream of something better than adding 0 jobs over the next 10 years, I propose one idea and 3 action points related to that. The one idea is that instead of looking at in this sector, how do you create jobs, look at potentially services that can be delivered in agriculture sector and raise the incomes of farmers and support the food processing sector. So services is a small component out of the 600,000 people that are currently employed in this sector, a very small component. And we need to reimagine the jobs that will be generated in this sector as primarily in the services space over the next 10 years. So that's the idea.